Welcome back to this edition of On Every Front, showcasing our citizen soldiers and airmen as they answer our nation's call to duty. I'm your host, Army National Guard Staff Sergeant Adam Fishman. Since 9/11, members of the National Guard have served honorably when called upon by our nation to enter into harm's way across the globe. All members, whether Army or Air, officer or enlisted, from boots on the ground to harnessing the full effects of air superiority, everyone has fulfilled their mission. This month, we present a unique story that is the result of so many volunteering to serve. For the first time in the Air National Guard's more than 60-year history, all current members of the Air National Guard's senior leadership have served overseas and have had firsthand combat experience.
When we started doing that Air Expeditionary Force rotations in the 90s, it put the Air National Guard on the first string. I mean, prior to that, we weren't, I would arguably say we weren't on the first string, but the expectations rose that if you're going to perform these missions, you've got to be as good as your regular Air Force counterparts. And we were. But again, some of that credit goes to the United States Air Force for ensuring that we had the readiness and the ability to do that. But it was all about setting the expectations higher of what we are and what we're going to perform. And it's not just about doing things in the homeland, which is an important mission, but as a part of a warfighting reserve component of the Air Force.
It's pretty important that as senior leadership in the Air National Guard that we understand, our airmen, since 9/11 and since the beginning of hostilities, OIF, all the way through OEF, we've had airmen engaged in the fight since 9/11 now for 13 years continuously. And we've had upwards to 10,000 to 15,000 airmen at one time out of our force deployed in support of all these multiple efforts over the last 13 years.
Air Guard leaders having combat experience, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Hundreds of Air Guard airmen have accrued some type of combat experience or experience in a combat operation since 1991.
Then you have a cadre of leadership that all essentially understands the importance of ensuring that our airmen are resourced to be able to. So there's no mixed messaging anywhere in there. I mean, it's all of our leadership fully understands that our airmen are in harm's way, you know, every day. They're still in harm's way even today. And that we understand that we're providing those resources and policy for them to ensure that they're properly trained to be able to execute the mission our nation asks them to go do. I became a guardsman in 1990, and I truly feel there was a point there in the 90s, even though after Desert Storm, we were in a rotational demand, but once we hit 9/11 and then we started OIF and into OEF, this last decade plus of war has really cemented it in that our airmen, they do expect to be engaged as part of the fight. It becomes part of our DNA now.
You get to see the Air Force at war, so how it does things, you know, in the sense of if you pull everything, all the capabilities that we put into that fight, multiple fights, you get to see all of it. I got to see the ISR part. I get to see a bit of cyber. I got to see, obviously, air operations, precision strike, close air support. I got to see command and control, how that comes together. I got to see how we integrate in the joint operations of things we do. I got to see it from a coalition perspective. So when it comes to my current position, I've seen a lot of it and seen it in multiple places. And it gives me a more informed position about an opinion about how we do things or will do things in the future. The experience I had in 2003 for Iraqi Freedom, I was selected by then Lieutenant General Mosley to be the 410th Air Expeditionary Wing Commander. So this is a wing of about 3,000 individuals, but they came from all over the total force. And we even had Army Patriot units there embedded with us. And so I got to see so much, you know, as a wing commander in that position. You know, that one particular experience shaped me, I think, more than anything else, because it's kind of like I was asked to get ready for the world's largest operational readiness inspection and do it all inside of 60 days. It was probably the highlight of my career.
So it's always been the attitude that, you know, a combat veteran or a combat leader understands what's important and what's not. Organized, train, and equip for combat operations. And I think that when they see what is working in terms of modernizing, training, equipping, they get a better focus. The capability and being available is what made us relevant. We've always been ready and reliable.
Combat experience is a characteristic nearly all airmen throughout the Guard have acquired. Their combat experience has served them with more than just a rite of passage. Rather, a distinct skill set that has shaped their leadership skills, helping them better serve as senior leaders among fellow Guard members. From National Guard Bureau Headquarters, thanks again for watching this edition of On Every Front. Whether at home or abroad, your National Guard is everywhere America needs us to be. Always ready, always there.